Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show podcast, the podcast show where we unlock potential one dream at a time. Today, we have another guest whose journey is truly worth hearing. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Moneyway experience.
What's up, my good people? Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show, the podcast that brings you stories behind the success. Today, we have on the show author, healer, spiritual teacher, and mentor, Joy G. How you doing, Joy?
I'm great. How are you doing, CJ?
I'm doing good. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
So, Joy, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background.
My goodness. Well, these days, most of my work is as a medium, connecting people and giving clear guidance and messages either from their loved ones that have crossed over or about things going on in their own lives. But that's not where I started. I grew up in Boston, kind of city girl, if you will. And eventually, as life takes you, ended up moving to California, doing some acting. I was probably best known for my role as a WWE diva, which was an amazing journey in itself. And then when that career ended, I always had a passion for wellness. I had actually trained and was a massage therapist and a trainer and all kinds of things before my acting career. So I kind of got led back into that, and mediumship sort of came to me. I didn't really seek it out. It just, as life goes, sometimes things just happen and you keep going down the path. And here I am, 10, 15 years later, getting to do what I love. I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing journey, exciting journey. So since you was talking about this, tell us about your time being a WWE diva and your time in modeling and acting. What was that experience like?
I really loved it. I was kind of in a place in my life. I already had my kids. I became a mom young. My kids are grown now. So I was 20 when I had my first one. And I had already been doing, like I said, fitness training. I was training as a holistic medicine practitioner because I wanted to help my kids. I realized once I had kids that I didn't know very much at all.
Yeah.
And, they're babies and they get these little tummy aches and you don't take them to the doctor for every little thing. And I was like, I need to learn some extra tools. So I started training in that, and I was training as like a fitness trainer for primarily golfers and athletes and things like that. And then I ended up the mentor that I was working with. I believe in mentors. I got to tell you, CJ, find someone that knows more than you and ask them to teach you. And then with that mentor was like, why don't we start training you for like fitness competitions and things? And I ended up not getting all the way to fitness competition just because my frame is a little small, but I ended up doing some modeling and really loved it. I actually had done a little bit of acting when I was in kind of, school plays and a little bit in college, and really loved it. But where I'm from in Boston, it's kind of the attitude of like, well, that's not a real career. You got to pick something else. So I kind of put that dream to the side and was auditioning. I actually was fortunate enough to have become a SAG actor. So I was really out there trying to do it and put my heart and soul into it. And then the WWE thing was just an audition that I got. It's kind of a funny story and just goes to show, I guess you never know what's going to be the thing that opens the door for you. My kids were very small at the time. My agent had called me for this audition. I had recently declined a couple of auditions, like within the last couple weeks, and I think one of my kids had like a little cold or something. And this audition was far. I lived maybe an hour and a half outside of LA at the time. So I was commuting, and this audition was all the way on the other side of LAX, which was going to be like 2 hours away. And I just was like, oh, if I don't go on this, my agent's going to drop me. And it's really hard to get agents. So I went. I ended up getting picked up they had I think they called it the Diva Search back in the day. I think it might have been the first one, actually. It's so hard to remember now. It's been a long time. And then from there, I ended up working with the company, and for about a year was the catalyst of their main event program. So I was getting kidnapped and put in trunks of cars and fought over and chased down dirty hallways in the back of arenas and got to travel the world. And it was an interesting time. I actually wasn't sure if I wanted to do it initially, just because the truth is at that time, if you remember back, this is like early 2000s, maybe 2005, 6, there wasn't crossover happening. Like if you were doing that, no one was ever taking you serious as an actor. It was pretty much The Rock. And even he was kind of not super mainstream at that time. It was like, oh, he's that wrestler guy. And I just was like, no one's going to ever take me seriously again. I don't want to be seen as just my physical self. You know what I mean? So I kind of fought whether I was going to do it or not. And my team at the time that I was working with, they were like, listen, this is international exposure. You want to work or don't you? And so, you got to take sense from people who know better. So, I worked for them for about a year.
That's pretty cool. So you was actually hanging out with The Rock back in the time before The Rock was The Rock?
No, he was already The Rock. Don't
get that wrong. Don't get that
don't get twisted.
I get it. Don't get that twisted.
But I did get to meet him and work with him a few times, actually. I always had a big crush on him. So my quote unquote boyfriend or special friend on the show was The Big Show. So he was the big guy at the time and doing the main event fights and all of that. Usually the main event for the night, like the main title fight was something happened to me and that's why they had to fight. So that was kind of the way it worked. It was an interesting thing for sure.
I bet it was. So let me ask you on the question, something that you were saying, like you said, you got into acting and you went into it fully and things of that nature. So let me ask.
Yeah.
So say like, okay, you was doing that back then. So do you think that have something to do with like the things that you're doing now as far as your podcast, writing books and things of that nature, like that creativity that was always there? And now, you know what I'm saying, it's exposing and it's coming out because I can remember, coming up, I was one of them kids too, dancing, putting on performances for the holidays. That's when they had a show called out. They had a show putting on the hits or something where they was performing and things of that nature. My family wanted to get me on that show. And I was in the drama, junior high school and things of that nature. And I just think that now, writing books, I think that comes from as a child when I was younger, that creativity was always there, but you kind of like bottle it up and don't think that it really exists until it's actually exposed. Like, wow, this is what was leading me to this all along. So do you think that has something to do with where you're at now?
I mean, it's a great question and you make a great point. I think a lot of times it's only in hindsight, in retrospect, that we can see the threads and the way that they weave together and all of that. So I have that in so many ways from so many times in my life that I realize maybe it's kind of like that raw stone getting tossed around in a tumbler to get polished up. Do you know what I mean? And I see how all the things, either things I really enjoyed doing, or there's this one recording of me from when I was like 7 or 8. I was visiting my dad in the summer and it was like raining or hot. And we couldn't go outside. And I made a whole series of recordings of myself interviewing people on the news. He was in Philly and there was like a trash thing happening on the news. And I was playing both parts and I was doing all the interviews. And I was, so were these seeds planted from the time I was little? I'm sure. And then we get to choose how we are going to express them and what opportunities we're going to take,
Yeah. And I know what you mean by interviewing yourself. I was just asked this question on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. They asked me, how did I come up with the title of the CJ Moneyway Show? And I told them that when I was writing my book, I actually had a chapter that it was like a radio station. And so I was doing interviews. So I was doing an interview, but actually I was interviewing myself.
Yep.
So, and that's why I came up with the title CJ Moneyway, and I was interviewing myself. So I actually know what you mean as far as playing both roles,
Yeah, exactly.
Just the creative part that we do. Some people say sometimes you don't talk to yourself. I don't know. I mean, I kind of talk to myself a lot.
I think we all do. And especially, I mean, I don't know. I think we're probably about the same age. I'm 46. When I was a kid, sometimes the only person to talk to was yourself. It wasn't like we weren't so connected like we are now. We spent a lot of time figuring out what to do with ourselves when we were little, playing outside or being creative, or, sometimes we did not have all the tools we needed for the game. We had to be creative to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are around the same age. I'm a tad bit older than you, but it's all good. Speaking of speaking to yourself.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, as we were saying, so now that I think about it, as I grew up in life and matured in life and doing the things that you're doing, I'm going to ask you this question.
Yeah.
So was it that we were really speaking to ourselves, or the spirit speaking to us? So with this question, so when did you sense that your spirituality was something special?
That's a good question, because there's kind of two answers at the same time. So there's an aspect of this that was always a part of me, but just something, kind of what you just said. We don't know if other people are talking to themselves in their head or not. Like, you don't know, you just assume everyone's doing what you're doing. And I can remember times when I was 2 years old and talking to someone next to me that my parents will tell you as the story of my imaginary friend who just was there for years and never left. Or like being 7 and being in church, and I was Catholic at the time. So the priest was speaking and I could see colors moving all around him as he was giving his address and prayer. I could feel the music in the church move through me and give me tingles all over my body. Those things are part of the spiritual work that it's just like, we don't necessarily even think twice about them. We just have these experiences and move on. So I think in some ways it was always with me, but I didn't identify it as special or different for a really long time until I was maybe about 15 years ago or so. After I had stopped acting, I returned to massage therapy and wellness, and I really wanted to learn this thing called Reiki, which is like an energy healing technique. But over the years, I'd been so interested, but a little trepidatious, a little bit like, the way I would say it is like, I don't want to open doors I don't understand. I don't know if this is okay. I'm not trying to join a cult. Like, I don't know about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was really through pursuit and study and learning and having my own experiences, and eventually trained and became a Reiki healer. And my first mentor was like, "Oh, you're psychic and you have gifts." And I was like, "Oh, you're crazy." Cause that's, I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And then once I was, had my own business, I was doing sessions for people. And all of a sudden I would start to become aware of people that weren't there in the physical, but I could give a little bit of details about them. And they would say, "Oh, that's my aunt. That is what she looked like. That is what she would say." Like, sometimes it would be a pet. It was all different things early.
Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and t-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
And then that's when I was kind of like, okay, I need to know, do I have this? Do I want this? What am I supposed to do with this? And again, I sought out a mentor, because that's my, like, all right, somebody else has more information than me. Let's go find them. So that's probably when it's a long-winded answer, but it's probably when I knew.
No, I get it. A lot of times it touches in different ways. As you said, that it made me think about when I was younger. I never forget, I was in bed and something touched me. And I ran in there to my mother and she was praying. I say, "Did you touch me?" I say, "You came in." She said, "Boy, I didn't touch you." And so, then once I got older and I started reading, and I remember one passage where it talks about where God came and talked to Samuel and he thought that it was Eli, so sometimes, and he was running to him. But, like you say, sometimes you just really don't know, as you say about when the priest was preaching and you seen these colors going around him and things of this nature. It's like you get different signs. Like you say, as you're younger, I don't understand the concept. I don't really know what's going on. And I get grown, I still don't know what's going on. But all the time, it was something that was in you, and at a certain point when you got to wherever you were at, before you seeked out the mentors and things of that nature, whatever was in you was ready to be come ready to come out at you, you know, with all the other things that you did, being a WWE diva, the actress, and you know, and all that. But this is what your gift was. This is what your calling was, and so you know, it's just amazing.
Thank you. We're all just a vessel, right, for the expression of our soul and where we want to take it. But it's interesting because I can see back to what you were saying before about how the things really, I always felt called to help people. I mean, when I was in middle school or in high school, I was, you know, school offices, and I went to Christian school for a little bit. And there I was the class chaplain. So I was like the religious leader of my class doing the dedications and devotions every day and leading the prayers. And it just felt natural to me. And then I couldn't figure out like, well, why did I need to be, I always wanted to do film and television. I didn't want to do arenas, live audiences like that. But now with mediumship, I often am working kind of on a platform in front of groups of, you know, people, 2 or 10 or 100, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, oh, okay, I see how these different opportunities all lend themselves to what I'm expressing now.
You know, and it's amazing that you say that, because one thing that I always talk about is another story, and he was in the prison. And when he was in the prison, he developed, well, I ain't gonna say he developed, but there was a talent that it wasn't talked about before. And so sometimes when you in places that, like you say, I didn't want to do this, I wanted to be on TV. And sometimes in places that we don't want to be, there's talents and gifts that's being developed in that place that we don't think that we need at that time, but it's the launching pad to get us to where, so when we get to where we're supposed to be, we went through the certain steps that we didn't think that was necessary, but it was actually necessary for us to get to where we are, like you said, because now, okay, I see why I went through this and how I went through the WWE and was on this platform, because now you have your own platform and that built you into this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it is at times.
When your friend or the person you were speaking about was in prison, what was the gift that they ended up developing?
Oh, he developed, well, in the word it say that in the beginning he was a dreamer, right? He had a dream. But then when he was in the prison, it say that he was able to interpret dreams. It never said that he was able to interpret dreams. But now that he's in this place that he didn't want to be, now he's developed another talent, another gift that actually got him out of the prison. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
that
I know what you're
got
talking
him
about.
to the point where he was supposed to be. And so, and he had told him, he said, look, I don't deserve to be here and I don't want to be here. And so when I was reading that, I had to stop, you know, and say, wow, sometimes when we don't like certain jobs, I don't want to be at this job. And, you know, it might be accountant, you know, where you counting money and this and that, but it may be something that you need at that job to take you to your next level. When you get ready to go to your next level, this is the experience that you have already had, you know. So now it's like, okay, I can implement this with that. Like you said earlier, it ties everything together. You know, you look back, it just ties it all together. So that's just my thought on it, Joy.
I think that's so interesting. And I think it's a great example of how people don't realize how important our free will choice is. Even like for me, even in the work as a psychic, which only means I'm blending with someone's soul to understand information about them. It's not about predicting the future. I don't believe anyone can predict the future because we all have free will. And it's these free will choices that we make little by little along the way. If you're in that job as an accountant, are you going to take that opportunity to learn everything you can and do your best job? Or are you going to complain every day that you don't like your job? Do you know what I mean? Like we have these little minute free will choices that we make constantly all the time that set us up for what's going to be available to us in that next phase. Then you've been sharpening your skills, learning all you can. Maybe there's a different opportunity that opens up that now you have an additional choice available to you that you didn't have before. People dismiss how much we really have so much free will in our own lives to set ourselves up or to not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely with the complaining, you know, it's funny that you brought that up. I'll never forget, Joy. I was working at the casino. And I worked in the casino industry for over 20 years.
Wow.
And so there's one casino I was working at. It was called Horseshoe Casino. And so my brother used to work there. And so it was a girl. It was a young lady And she said, oh, I know you. She said, I know you. She said, you the one that complain all the time. And that stuck with me, that really stuck with me. And so from that moment on, I've tried to, in my life, not complain as much, because when somebody can come back and tell you like, oh, you the complainer, I'm like, that's not how I want to be labeled. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be labeled as that guy that just go around complaining all the time, because I've read the stories about what complaining do. You can walk around the wilderness for years and years and years and just complain about everything that's been given to you, that's been provided to you, but I'm still not satisfied with what I have. And so that narrative, I wanted to shake that up off of me. I didn't, but it was meant for me to hear that at that time.
Absolutely. And it is, I could imagine, a powerful thing when I'm sure have had jobs and you think like, okay, it's that girl with the crazy hair. It's that guy that complains all the time. It's that someone's identifying you by that feature. That's something to take to heart. But you paused in that moment. You had a free will opportunity to say like, yeah, that's right. And here's what else I want to complain about. Or to say like, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't like that so much.
I don't like that at all. So, over the years, that's something that I've tried to dedicate myself to, not to be complaining about it, and just be thankful, be more thankful, be more humble in life, because we have so much to be thankful for. And so instead of being thankful, why am I complaining about things that I already have? Things that I don't have, then it ain't meant for me to have at this moment. Don't mean that I won't get it. It's just not meant for me to have at this moment. So
that's the other piece of it. Sorry to interrupt you. Is one of the things that this might be a weird way to say this on your show, but my guides have shown it to me in this way of, do you remember those really old school tapestries where it's like this? It's a picture, but it's made from thread, like a needlepoint type.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So they said on this side, when we're kind of in our human bodies and having our experience, we really only see the back of the tapestry. And it looks messy and all the knots, and it doesn't have a picture. But when we return to spirit and cross over to the other side, we get to see the front of the picture. And we see like, oh, okay, I understand why that wasn't the timing for me for this, or why, how this connected to this, or how meeting this person actually opened up this whole, you know what I mean? It's messy on this side. We don't see all the connections, but once, we're over there, we have the opportunity to see like, oh, okay. So this is why that person came to me that day and told me I was complaining, or what, all the little things that we just miss,
Yeah. So like I said, that was something to take to heart. So moving forward, Joy, tell us about some of the challenges that you faced in life. I read your bio and I seen some of the things that you went through, that you endured, and that you've overcame. So can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
I mean, I think there's so much, since we already have been kind of I've kind of an inordinate amount of craziness and trauma in my life. But since we were just talking about the WWE thing, I think maybe that's an easy one to use to illustrate. I mean, to look from the outside, people would have thought, oh, she's on top of the world. She's on international television every week and, has this great career, and it's what a lot of people would strive for. But what people didn't realize is behind the scenes, I had 2 little kids I was providing for. My kids were 3 and 5. My marriage was failing. It was not going well. I was also providing for other family members and really had so much responsibility on my shoulders that I needed to just be who everyone else needed me to be and show up how everyone else needed me to show up. But I was breaking inside. And then when I shockingly lost my contract, they just called me one day. I had my suitcase by the door, prepared to go full-time on the road with them. At that time, I had only been required to show up for televised things, but I was going to go, dedicate my whole life to them and surrender, basically, is what I thought I was doing. And I got this call, it's not personal, it's just business. We're releasing a lot of people. You're done. You know what I mean? And, my whole world came crashing down. I ended up losing my house. My marriage failed shortly after that. It was just so messy. And then it's, how do you pick up those pieces and decide, I still got these kids that I'm raising and providing for. Now I'm on my own and paying for attorneys and losing family members that I was supporting because that's what they were there for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So really my whole world got turned upside down. And I just kind of felt that call in my heart to return to, it was this real, almost like fork in the road, because when in acting, you lose a contract or the show's over or whatever, you back to auditioning every day. And they don't care what time your kids get out of school. They really don't. So I needed something that I could manage my schedule. And I loved being a mom more than anything else. So I just had to refocus and rebuild, and kind of almost felt like breadcrumbs leading me back through, okay, now you're going to start working with athletes, because I had worked with a lot of athletes in my acting career, a lot of fighters and things. Okay, now you're going to have this opportunity. Actually, it's how I moved to San Diego. I started a whole side business with a friend. We did an ice cream truck, which is a whole different story. But one day when I was driving around this ice cream truck, I told you I wanted to learn Reiki so bad. I went to this one neighbor's house, and someone was there that he introduced me to that I'd never seen. She's not even from the neighborhood really. And I said, what do you do? And she said, oh, I'm a Reiki teacher. I teach this. And I was like, oh my God, will you teach me this? And so I ended up working with her for a couple of years. So it's kind of like each thing that I accepted and decided to try opened a new opportunity for me. And I didn't realize that at the time, which is often how it is, like we were saying, I was slowly kind of climbing these rungs out of this really terrible full breakdown of my entire life to get to where I am now. And I still feel like I'm a work in progress. I mean, I think that's part of the beauty of life, is we get to keep working on ourselves and growing and evolving.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Don't miss out on CJ Moneyway's book, Both Eyes Open and Both Eyes Shut. And get ready to pre-order his upcoming release, The Issues of Life, coming soon. Moneyway, aiming to inspire.
Yeah, I mean, working on yourself, is amazing. Like you say, you lost this and you lost that, and how you didn't have the desire to give up and, keep pushing, where your kids were the focus. Like, hey, I can't give up. I still got 2 little kids that I have to provide for, and just going through the emotional trauma of everything else that you have to deal with, like say, losing the contract, marriage in shambles, and then that breakup, family members, and people that you're supporting whom you felt as though they loved you because of you. And
and that's your family. That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, all these hurting things that at one time, but to be able to put all that to the side and still build yourself up and say, you know what? I'm more than a conqueror. I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on building. And like you say, look where you're at now. Hey, sometimes we have to go through some things, forks in the road. Maybe it's us. Maybe we have to look at ourselves like, man, why am I going through this? Why did I go through that? Why did I go through this?
Yeah.
Or, one thing that I found out in life, Joy, and I'm going to be honest with you, one thing I found out in life, that sometimes some doors may open for us.
Yeah.
And there's some people that's connected to us that's not allowed to go through the door, but because of our attachment to them, we want to bring them through the door with us, but they're not meant to go. And so sometimes when we let go and move forward without certain people, that becomes exposed, like the ones that I'm supporting you. I'm giving you money. I'm paying your mortgage, or I pay your car note when you miss a car note payment. And then I don't have it to give you. The love that you supposed to have for me is gone. So
absolutely.
So those people are the ones I was trying to bring through that door. And so once I found out and everything got exposed, now that same door that was open and I don't have the extra baggage with me, now the doors that was always open for me, now I can go through. Now this, like you said earlier, on the other side, on this side is all messy and this, that, and it don't look like it's put together. And then you go on this side, you say, oh, wow. When I let this person go and that person go and this person went away, this is what came about and this is what happened.
Yeah.
And so life is a lot better because, the circumstances.
The other piece of it is I had to do so much emotional work on myself. It's back to, we have that choice. I could have sat in and wallowed in the why me but the truth is, like you said, we're very privileged and blessed to be where we are and have homes and in a first world country. There's a lot of people who have a lot of things happen every day. And it's not so much about the why, it's how do I want to show up and who do I want to be? And does this feel good to just complain, or should I look at myself? What choices did I make that contributed to this situation? What did I learn? Who do I want to become out of this? And not all the time, because of course we have to take a minute to process, like, man, that just was really terrible. And I'm very sad or whatever it is. But letting ourselves do that personal development, that emotional development, I think is kind of the magic of everything. And I think it's what draws us forward in life. If we can keep looking at ourselves, keep evaluating ourselves and our emotions instead of shoving them down, I think that's what not only does it cause bitterness, and I believe ultimately can cause physical illness. I don't think it's the only cause, but it blocks that feeling of feeling connected to more than we are. It blocks that feeling of, oh, my intuition's here, I know what to do next. It makes us muddy inside when we don't process those tough emotions and develop our character ourselves.
Yeah, true. And so on that note, you like helping people. You said earlier that that's something that you felt like, that was your calling to do something to help people. So tell us about your 3-day program.
Oh, I have a free 3-day mini course that everyone's welcome to access. You can get it right on the homepage of the website, joyfulmedium.com. Essentially, it's 3 quick mini lessons, because one of the things that I really feel like it's important for everyone to know is everyone can have an ongoing conversation with, whether you like to call it God, whether you like to call it the universe, whether you like to call it, divine love, energy, whatever feels good for you. We can have this ongoing conversation and we can receive signs, and we can use numbers to receive signs. And we all have the ability to feel, sense, connect with our loved ones on the other side. It might not be to the degree or in the way that I do it as a working professional, but we all have access to our own loved ones. So that's really what this course is about. Is it teaches you how to get signs from the universe, if you see recurring numbers, if you ever see like 1111, 444, it teaches you what those numbers mean and how to use them to kind of use your intuition. And it teaches you how to get signs from loved ones on the other side. Because really, I think the underpinning of all of my work is that we are much more connected. We sometimes feel so separate and so alone, and we're much more connected spiritually and through our souls and through the love that we share with people that have crossed over than we think. And if everyone just knew, oh, I can get a sign from my person that's over there that I love, that I lost. I know that they're with me. I know that they're safe. It just opens our heart a little bit to be able to do all the other things we need to do in this life. So that's the course.
As you said that, it made me think about it because, as you say, whatever you choose to call it, God, the universe, and things of that nature. But I'm listening to you, and, like you think of medium psychics and things of that nature. First thing you think about is Cleo. And so
I remember Cleo. I saw that documentary. Did you watch the doc on her?
But as I'm listening to you and I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about it, it made me think, and you touched up on that a little bit, that a lot of times we do, like people that had passed away and went on to glory, we say, I know you watching over me. Or, I know you looking down on me. So like you say, it's certain we're more connected than we think that we are. We just don't practice that. A lot of us just don't practice that technique. But as you were saying that, it made me think about it because a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that's probably listening to this show, that's going to listen to this show, will think about it, be like, you know what? I have said something to that nature. Like, I know my grandmother's looking down on me, or if she could see me now, how proud my mother would be, like you got professional ball players that you say that you've been around. And so some of them may have lost their mother or something at an early age. And so that was their driving force to get to the NBA or to the NFL to make their mother proud of them, because you still
someone like Kevin Hart says it all the time, talks about his mom all the time. She passed a few years ago, that he's everything he, does, he feels his mom, and it's for the love of her. So you're right. Everyone's lost someone,
Yeah.
And if you haven't, God bless you. You're really lucky. So give everyone a hug, because
very lucky.
And sorry, let me just say this before I forget. That's the beauty of signs, is so often when it is, particularly if it's like, God forbid, a parent that's lost a child, or, someone that's lost their partner, or someone passes in an unexpected way, we desperately want to know, are you okay? Like, did you make it to somewhere? Do you know what I mean? Are you in a bad place? Are you safe? And we say, send me a sign. But then we feel like we're not receiving it because just no one's taught us how to do it. It's very simple. Anyone can do it. It's something you can learn. These 3 lessons are only 15 minutes. So something you can learn very quickly. And it's about setting up a specific sign with them so you can know, okay, I know my mom is here watching me, or I know this person's present with me. So it's so powerful, and anyone can do it. And it takes a little bit of the mystery out of it, maybe. I mean, it's all still pretty mysterious, but.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've never really thought about it myself. Yeah. But as I'm listening to you, then the thought came to my head, like, I think we all have done that at some point in time in life. So let me ask you this question, Joy. So do you need protection from the other side of the spiritual world?
That's a great question. I feel like it's one of the challenging things about this work is there's so much in the media and so much in movies and things that we've watched that kind of gives us, it's that creative flair, but it's fiction. So it's what I've learned is really, if we need like quote unquote protection from something, it's the energy in this world on this side. There's nothing bad on the other side. There's no boogeyman. There's no evil spirits. Everyone returns to this very, the highest version of themselves, essentially, when we don't have these complicated human situations and emotions happening. So, but the truth is, we have energy as humans. We have this, it's what we commonly identify it as our personal space bubble, but it's really our auric field. So when you hear your aura, that's really just your personal space bubble. Like, have you ever stood in a line at like the grocery store and all of a sudden you kind of feel like, oh, someone's too close to me, but you didn't see them. You just felt them too close to you. They're in your auric field. That's why. So I did an episode about this on my pod not long ago, where it's like this bubble of energy is around us. You can even look, there's a place called the Heart Math Institute, and they've done studies of this electromagnetic field projected by our heart. So there's this energy that's us all around us, kind of emanating through us. And as we move through the world, we kind of mix in sometimes with other people's energy. We sense things, we feel things, and it's not like evil spirit things. It's like other people's emotions. It's like, do you ever hang out with someone and you're like, man, I don't know why, but every time I see that person, I just feel so drained. That's the kind of thing that it's a thing. That's the kind of thing that we can kind of quote unquote, like, protect ourselves from, but it's not protection in a dangerous way. It's just, you can come back to center. You can come back to yourself. You don't have to carry other people's difficult emotions or let them, now there's like the buzzword energy vampire. It's not they're doing anything to you. They're just a draining person, and we're each responsible for our own energy. So it's not that it's protection so much. It's learning to manage our own emotions, our own energy, kind of keeping ourselves at the level we want to stay at, and not letting someone else knock us off because they cut us off in traffic, or because, someone was rude or what have you. We can just, it's kind of like that, let that go and come back to center. Or are you going to let it affect you and throw you off for your whole day? Those are the type of things that we need to manage our energy around, but it's not a protection in it's a great question in a scary way.
No, I get it. And before I move to the next question, because you said something, like you say, a lot of times people cut you off in traffic and this and that, and you may say something to get upset or whatever. Yeah. Like say, either you can let that spoil your whole day, or you can get that moment, then get over it and then move on. It was just something that happened, and and I brought that up and because you said it, I brought that up because I was just talking to somebody the other day, and I said, man, this road rage stuff is just getting out of control where people not letting things go. They actually out here killing people just because just to get somewhere 5 seconds, earlier. Now, as you said earlier, saying like get to your destination. Now, if I go out here and kill somebody because I came in a fit of rage for that little one moment, now I'm not getting to where I'm trying to get anyway, because now I'm going to jail because I had killed somebody, over because they didn't cut in front of me or they going too slow. I mean, it's just, I don't mean, it's just
it's true. Or they gave me a dirty look, or they, whatever the case may be. Like, is it that deep? Like, can you just let that go? Can you
let it go?
Yeah. And even on a smaller scale, maybe that road rage doesn't accelerate to that level. Sorry, I live downtown. It gets ambient down here. But maybe, that guy sounds road ragey. Maybe then you just are resentful your whole day. And then you're at the DMV and you're the person behind the counter. And now you're that angry worker at the DMV, making everyone else's day miserable. And that's how energy and emotion is contagious.
Oh, yeah.
We're blind about it.
So, my last question.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your podcast, Speak Easy, which I will have to say I feel privileged to be able to be a guest on your show.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Well, thanks for asking. I still have mentors and coaches and have all the way through. Some of it for my mediumship gifts and some of it just for the more business aspects of life, because I think we all need help where we can get it. And I have a coach that I've been working with for several years. And a few years ago, she was like, you need to do a podcast. You're late on this. Everyone's doing podcasts. And I was like, I don't want to do it. Because my first reaction is often resistance. But I did the personal development work we're talking about. And I sat with myself and I was like, okay, why do I not want to do this? Is it because I feel like I can't do it? Is it because my spirit, is telling me this is not for you? So I evaluated and ultimately started Spirit Speakeasy. And the way I think of it is sometimes, like we were talking about, there's so much noise out there on the beautiful, magical internet that it's confusing. And there is a lot of disinformation and misinformation. So I thought, well, what I can do is be a trustworthy resource for people. And I can share. I know a lot of amazing people. I know a lot of, the way I say it is mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. I know a lot of people that are lights in their own life and to other people. And I can share their story. And I am good at having conversation. And I do naturally have a lot of questions as a person. So I kind of slowly wrapped my mind around it. And now we're nearing 100 episodes and keep messaging me and telling me it's doing really well in the charts, even though I don't know how to check any of that. But so I love it. It really is just intended to be this resource, but from the angle of how you said you have a different approach now, from the angle of, well, I am an insider in this work and I have been behind a lot of velvet ropes in a lot of situations, be it in my acting career or having this kind of inside knowledge as far as like mediumship and spirituality and how energy actually works and what the scary news is out there versus like, no, it's just someone standing behind you in line and it's your aura. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really the basis of it is to be able to ask questions from a perspective that's maybe a little bit more quote unquote in the know or just having slightly more experience in the field so that we can start to have more solid information out there. And there's so many beautiful souls, it's kind of what you do here with your show that have a story to share. And it's one of my favorite things about mediumship, actually, because I don't, when I have clients that come in to talk to their loved ones on the other side or to know, to hear information from them, it's not famous people. It's not, it's an everyday thing. And I'm communicating with grandmas and moms and dads and kids and, everyone has a story. Everyone has a story of their life. Everyone has emotions. It's the thing we all share no matter what our life experience is this human emotion spectrum. So it's really been a fun platform and a fun place to get to have these type of conversations. And a lot of people message me and say, I don't have any other area in my life where I get to hear about these things or talk about these things. So it's always just like yours, always evolving and always growing. And I do interviews half the time, and then half the time I do solo chats where I'll either teach a lesson or talk about something. We do sometimes Ask a Medium Anything, where people have sent questions and I'll just kind of answer the most common questions. And so it's a lot of fun. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, for first, congratulations on 100 episodes.
It's almost there.
That's quite a bit. I think I will be hitting 100 episodes early part next year.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so
labor of love, as we know.
Hey, we know the grind. We know what it is. It's not for the weak. It's not for the faint. You got to put in work to do this, and you have to really enjoy what you're doing. And as you were saying, as we talked about before we came on, the aspect of just hearing the stories of the grandmothers or the grandfathers or that person working at the grocery store that became a entrepreneur, it's just a lot of awesome stories out there that if someone like yourself that had a platform that you have, or like me and others, to give the everyday man and the everyday woman a platform to speak their stories, they probably wouldn't be heard. So keep up the good work, Joy.
Thanks.
And I will try to do the same. So is there any other projects that you're working on that we can look forward to?
I am always working on things. I feel like that's kind of how it works for me, is I'll just get this inspiration of, create this course, teach this, talk about this. So yes, always the best place to check is my website, joyfulmedium.com. There's an events tab that has usually what's new and fresh coming up. I also do usually monthly free community healing sessions where you can come in. I guide a meditation for everyone, and we do a little bit of energy healing. And so I have lots of little free offers for people to come in and receive a little bit, because I think that's a big part of what we are able to share. So I would say check there, get the free mini course sign magnet right on the homepage, and start playing with learning how to get some signs and learning how to work in the energy, and just know that we're all a work in progress and there's always more to learn. So yeah, there's always going to be more to teach too. I'm excited.
Yeah. So on that note, let me just ask you a question before we leave off. To any aspiring actors, models, people that want to start a podcast, what type of advice would you give them?
With acting and podcasting, modeling is a little bit of a different thing. It's so different than it was like 20, 25 years ago. In some ways, it's easier just because it's not so gatekept in the same way. Anyone can create their own show. Anyone can have a YouTube show, for example, and be wildly successful. But on the opposite side of that coin, there's a lot more noise. So there's a lot more people putting their voice out there. So if it's in your heart and you're passionate about it, two things: keep after it, keep figuring out who you are and what you want to say or what you want to express or what's unique about your show, your play you want to write, your movie you want to shoot. And the other thing is keep working on yourself, I guess. It's kind of like, don't quit your day job. Because I think that's the thing, is a lot of people want to start whatever entrepreneurial venture it is. Maybe you want to shoot a show on YouTube, but maybe you're just trying to start your own little business. You can do all of that on the side, so to speak, and let it build to the point where it's bringing you a little bit of cash flow before you quit your solid thing. It doesn't need to be so black and white where it's like, okay, now I'm not doing this anymore. Now I'm doing this. It's like, well, who's paying your bills? So don't give up your dream, but also make sure that you have a way to support yourself in the interim. And the truth is, when I first started acting, there was times where I was working more than one job to be able to afford, at the time it was the headshots, and you got to get a little film of yourself put together, and you got to, I was commuting an hour and a half to go on auditions. So I had an extra job to pay for my pursuits as an actor and all of that. So where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of it, I guess, is there's this little bit of work on ourselves to do around accepting what comes, because I took a job that I didn't necessarily want to take with WWE. I learned so much and I experienced so much. but it wasn't the way I thought it was going to show up. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's how it is with so many things that turn out to be the most wonderful thing. At face value, we're like, we turn our nose up like, oh, that's not the way I wanted that to look. That's not the, sports career I wanted. But if maybe you don't have the ability to be on the court, maybe you have the ability to be the water boy on the side, but you're still courtside every game, getting to be in that energy and that experience. So be willing to take other avenues that open up to you and see where they lead if it's fulfilling that creative part of you. So there's just a lot to be gained from just going after whatever it is that your heart's calling you towards, but don't quit your day job yet.
Hey, you heard it here on the CJ Moneyway Show. Joy G say, you can pursue your dreams, but don't quit your day job. You have been listening to the CJ Moneyway Show with your boy CJ Moneyway. Hey, my guest Joy G, my new friend. Hey, peace. We out of here.
Thank you for listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, leave a comment, and drop a review. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for more inspiring journeys. Who knows? Your story might be next.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's Best Eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's Best Eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.